Alright, thank you ladies and gentlemen for clicking on this video, and welcome to week 2 of Horror Movie Franchise Month here on Rank the Movies. So, last week we talked about the George Romero of the Dead series. This week we're moving on to another great horror movie series, and that is the one that kind of started it all, the slasher franchise, thriller, Halloween, and it's many movies with many timelines. So, before I get into the movies, I think we're going to start talking about the timelines. So, we have a bunch of movies in this series. There's, right here, you can see 10. There's actually 11. The third movie is not pictured because it does not feature Micheal Meyers. So it's spaced in the timeline as somewhere up here. It probably connects into at least one of them. So, our top 5 movies, Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween 4, Halloween 5, and Halloween The Curse of Micheal Meyers, all form our first Micheal Meyers timeline. Woohoo! We have one timeline! So they're all connected, with the previous movie being in connection with the aforementioned movie. Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween H2O, and Halloween Resurrection, which, for those of you who like numbers, are 7 and 8. 7 and 8, also form a timeline. So that's 2 timelines we have now. They completely ignore these 3 Micheal Meyers movies, and they create their own special timeline right here. Okay, so we're at 2 timelines. We then have Halloween and Halloween 2, which is the remakes. They are their own special timeline as well. So we have 3 timelines in this series of films. 3 of them. Count it. 3. 3 timelines. Then, with the release of Halloween a few years ago, we now have Halloween up here and Halloween in the far corner, because why not just rename the movie? There are literally 3 movies on this board called Halloween, with the same name. That is a 4th timeline. So in this series of films, there are 4 continuity timelines. Alright, now we're going to ask the question, is it a good series, a bad series, or an average series? And with 4 continuity timelines, you can probably guess where that's going to end up. So, let's get it started with the original Halloween, The Night He Came Home. John Carpenter's original slasher film featuring Micheal Meyers, The Shape, and Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis. A lot of people know this movie. Micheal Meyers murders his sister when he is a small child, sent to a mental institution under the guise of Dr. Sam Loomis, played by Donald Pleasance. On his 18th birthday, Michaels escapes his Smith's Grove Sanitarium, steals a car, and drives back to Haddonfield, where he is from. He begins stalking a babysitter and murdering her friends, until he tries to murder the babysitter, where he is shot many times by Sam Loomis, and he falls off a balcony. Yep, that's how that one ends, and he disappears when they look for him. He says a few lines to Jamie Lee Curtis, looks over the balcony, and he's gone. So that's the original. It is a great slasher film. It's got just the right level, and it uses suspense more than anything else. There isn't a lot of gore in this movie, but it's got a lot of suspense. It's a very suspenseful movie. It wants to scare you, not gross you out. So, let's throw it up here. We got good, we got average, we got bad, and it's the original. There wouldn't be 11 other movies if it wasn't good. So, Halloween is a good movie. The original Halloween is a good movie. Again, there are 3 of them named Halloween. 3 triplets! Alright. Next up, we have Halloween 2. More of the Night He Came Home. So, we have More of the Night Micheal Meyers Came Home. This is a direct sequel to the original, and was made because Friday the 13th was a huge hit. And they realized, hey, we have Micheal Meyers, he's basically the same thing as Jason Voorhees, we need to make a sequel. So they made Halloween 2. Basically, Laurie Strode is taken to the hospital because of her encounter with Micheal Meyers the night before. Michael, who has escaped after being shot, murders some people and finds his way to the hospital because he hears a radio broadcast saying Laurie is there. It's really actually quite subtle how they make it, so like a lot of audiences didn't notice it. That's how we found out that's where Laurie was and that's where he needed to go. You learn throughout the movie that Laurie is actually Michael's brother, or sister Laurie. Michael is Laurie's brother, and that's why he's trying to kill her, because he is trying to complete what he started when he killed his sister. Sam Loomis is still around, trying to hunt down Micheal Meyers. He ends up at the hospital, murders the hospital staff in gruesome fashion, and tracks down Laurie because Laurie's hard to kill. Eventually Sam Loomis shows up, and both of them blow up, ending the movie. It's fun. It's not bad. It's enjoyable. I mean, it's good. They made a good movie. Halloween 2, it is about as good as the first one. It's a little more gory and not as suspenseful, but it's still about as good as the original. So that brings us to Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, the movie that does not feature Micheal Meyers in any way, shape, or form, other than Halloween is running on a TV screen, which just really confuses this whole damn timeline. So, Halloween 3, again, it has nothing to do with Micheal Meyers. It is about a cult who makes masks for Halloween to try to turn children against their parents and basically take over the world. It is a cult that worships Stonehenge, and the masks each have a piece of Stonehenge inside of them, and at the right moment, when a commercial runs, they will deform the child, and the child will kill his parents. Or things that come out of the child will kill the parents. It's not 100% clear what the masks are going to do. So, that's the general plot of this movie. I've only seen this one a couple of times comparative to the rest, because it doesn't have Micheal Meyers, and it's hard to go the extent. I know a lot of people really like this movie, and I can see why. It's not a bad movie. In fact, on the chart, I'm giving it average. I'm giving Halloween 3 average. It's an average film. If you took away Halloween and just called it Season of the Witch, it would have been an average horror film. Would it have made my one-off horror films I did when I did my top 20 kind of horror films I've never talked about yet, that weren't part of a franchise? Probably not. But it's not a bad film. Moving right along, we get Halloween 4, The Return of Micheal Meyers. 10 years ago, he changed the face of Halloween. Tonight, he's back. That's right, tonight he's back. You find out at the end of Halloween 2, the explosion wasn't that bad. The fiery explosion, not that bad. And both Micheal Meyers and Sam Loomis survived with some scarring. Why not? Sam Loomis is still Micheal Meyers' doctor, even though he shot him a bunch and blew up with him. That's still apparently not enough to have him taken away as his doctor. Micheal Meyers has sat in a coma for 10 years. It is now Halloween night, and he's learned that Jamie Strode is dead, or Laurie Strode is dead, because they couldn't get Jamie Lee Curtis for this movie, because Jamie Lee Curtis was smart. But he finds out Laurie had a daughter named Jamie Lloyd. And Jamie Lloyd is 10 years old and very much alive. So Michael wakes up from his coma, goes to Haddonfield, and starts slaughtering people looking for his niece. Why? Because family. That's it. At the end, Michael gets blown down a mine shaft. I've always enjoyed Halloween 4. I've always liked it. I've always found this movie super amusing. I'm not gonna say it's the best horror movie ever, but it's super amusing. On the scale, it's average. It's right in the average category. It's not good by any means, but it is super amusing. I enjoy what they do with it. And I do like it. Now, I want to make a statement. I can't remember if it's this one or the next one. Although, both of them I immensely enjoy. One of them, the dude who plays Michael, looks like he has no neck. Can't remember which. But then we get Halloween 5, The Revenge of Micheal Meyers. So he returned, and now he's looking for vengeance. Michael lives, and this time, they're ready! That's the tagline. Michael lives, and this time they're ready. So Michael was blown down a mine shaft, found by a hermit and taken and cared for a year. It is now Halloween again, and Michael decides to go on a killing spree looking for his niece. Because again, family! His niece has suffered a lot of trauma. At the end of the last movie, she stabbed her adoptive mother. Didn't kill her, but stabbed her, a la Micheal Meyers. And has been in a psychiatric institution ever since, under the care of Dr. Sam Loomis, again because he's a doctor, I guess, apparently chasing down her uncle and trying to kill him 3 times doesn't disqualify him as a psychiatric provider. Jamie also now has a slight psychic connection to her uncle, which Loomis uses at the end of the movie to try to trick Michael, and so he can capture him. Basically, as the movie progresses, there's a lot of weird stuff. You see a man in black walking around, a symbol, and it's not explained in this movie. None of it's explained in this movie. Michael slaughters a bunch of people, including the final girl who was with Jamie in the last movie. Gets slaughtered in this one pretty early on, because, shocking, no one saw it coming. As the movie wraps up, Michael is arrested. He's not killed, he's just arrested. The man in black shows up, kills a bunch of cops, blows a hole in the wall, kidnaps Jamie Lloyd, and escapes with Michael Myers. And that's how the movie ends. Michael escapes, and his niece is kidnapped in the escape. Yep. It's an enjoyable movie, it really is. It's got a lot of interesting points in it. On the scale of good, average, bad, it's average. It's an average movie. It's got a horrible ending. The ending is bad. But the rest of the ride leading up to the ending is pretty fun. Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. Terror never rests in peace. Alright, so before I get into the plot of this one, there are actually 2 versions of this movie. You have The Curse of Michael Myers, and you have the producer's cut. Apparently, the producers had a very different idea of what they wanted this movie to look like, so they made 2 different versions of it. I will talk about both of them kind of in one overview, because there's only slight differences in the plot, primarily to the ending of the movie. But anyways, this movie takes place 5 years after the events of The Revenge of Michael Myers. Jamie Lloyd is now 16. I think she's 16. She's in this. But anyway, she's just given birth to a baby. In the theatrical cut, the father is not known. In the producer's cut, it's Michael's baby. Michael is the daddy. Michael raped his niece and created an offspring. And there's an evil cult of Thorn that is controlling Michael Myers and wants him to murder his niece and his nephew baby, and his son, her baby, whatever the, yeah, anyways, Jamie Lloyd escapes, is tracked down by Michael, hides the baby before Michael kills Jamie. Actually, the producer's cut, Jamie lives a little longer, but she ends up dead in both of them, so that's not, that huge thing. Jamie calls into a radio show that Sam Loomis is on, talking about Michael Myers and everything that's happened with him and Jamie Lloyd, and the disappearance. Because Loomis is still alive, though he's an old, retired doctor now, so he's old. Michael Myers now only has 1 family member left to kill, and that is his not son and son. Family! So, listening to the radio broadcast happens to be the boy that Laurie Strode was babysitting back in part 1, now played by Paul Rudd. That's right, Paul Rudd is in this movie. It's his first movie. Before anyone cared about Paul Rudd did Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. So, Paul Rudd goes to the train station, finds the baby, and takes the baby home, which he now lives across the street from the Myers' old house. A new family has moved in. They are related to the Strodes, who obviously were the adopted parents of Laurie Strode. Michael goes home and slaughters them all except their daughter and her young son, who is being groomed to be the next carrier of the Curse of Thorn, which means he's going to want to kill his entire family. That's the big thing. That's the big difference between the director's cut and the producer's cut, is the whole cult thing. It is heavier in the producer's cut and not as heavy in the theatrical cut, meaning the theatrical cut raises a lot of questions as what the hell is going on. Eventually, Michael kills a bunch of people. His child is captured, along with the child who they want to pass along. That this is a really complicated movie. They pass the Curse of Thorn on to, and her mother, and they're taken to the ritual where Michael will kill his last family member, and then the boy will kill his family member, thereby passing the curse on to him, and the world gets to be saved for another rotation as Sam Loomis and Paul Rudd fly off to try to save them. You find out the Man in Black from the previous movies, the leader of the Cult of Thorn, who also happens to be the former head of the current head of Smith's Grove, and is the man who sent Sam Loomis off way back in the first movie. He worked at Smith's Grove then, and is how Michael learned how to drive and escape and yada yada yada. Anyways, the movie ends. Michael is defeated, beaten with a pipe in the theatrical, held at bay by ruins. In the second one, not like ruins like, it's a ruined building, but like ruins as in like little stones that trap him. And Donald Pleasance's last movie. So in the producer's cut, both cuts is weird. The producer's cut ends with Donald Pleasance getting the job of being Michael's caretaker passed on to him. So basically, his friend named Thomas Wynn is dying and passes along the guardianship of Michael and the Curse of Thorn onto Sam Loomis, whereas the director's cut, because Donald Pleasance had already died when they decided to shoot a new ending, basically walks back into Smith's Grove Sanitarium and then screams, probably because Michael has killed him. So that's how it ends. So where does it fall on our scale? I'm not going to put both movies on the scale. And now my clicker, there we go. I'm not going to put both movies on the scale. I'm just going to put the theatrical cut because they're both basically the same movie. I put it as average. It's average, average, really leaning towards bad. It's complicated. It's not a bad movie, it's just super complicated. And the complication is what really drags it down to the average side. So then we get to Halloween H2O. This is the new timeline we're starting, where we're ignoring the last three movies and we're just focusing on 1 and 2. So Jamie Lloyd was never born, though. Laurie Strode does have a child. It's a boy. And she now works as a teacher in a preparatory school. Basically, Michael Meyers disappeared after the explosion. Sam Loomis also survived the explosion. And he has now died as well of natural causes, not killed by Michael. Michael finds out where Laurie is living, goes to preparatory school on the Halloween of her son's 18th year, because that's when he has to kill his family, apparently. Family again. Family is important. That's when he has to do it, is on their 18th birthday. So he goes to the preparatory school, kills a lot of people, gets into a fight with his sister, because again, Laurie Strode is hard to kill, and she ends up chopping off his head with an axe. Now remember, there's still one more movie in this timeline. She chops his head off with an axe. So where does this one fall on my good, average, bad scale? It's average. Again, it's an enjoyable movie. It's a fun movie. It's just not very inventive as far as pushing the narrative through. So, we're at, 5, 7, so we're over halfway through this series. And we're very average right now. We're a very average series of movies. So that brings us to Halloween Resurrection. This is the second movie in the second timeline of the Halloween films. You find out Laurie Strode has been institutionalized because the man she decapitated was not Michael Meyers. It was a paramedic who Michael crippled his voice box, and so she didn't know it wasn't Michael, and she chopped off his head. So she's been institutionalized because of the trauma. So now we're caught up. Michael breaks into the institution, kills his sister finally, because she is no longer hard to kill. She's no longer protected by the plot armor. She's no longer protected by the plot armor of needing to survive, and she is killed off in the first few minutes of this movie. Michael then returns home, where a reality TV web show is being filmed about his house. Yep. Reality TV web series, hosted by Tyra Banks and Busta Rhymes, playing Tyra Banks and Busta Rhymes with different names. So Michael starts slaughtering the people who have invaded his house until he's inevitably caught in a fire. He gets taken to the morgue and his eyes open. To set up for another movie. Oh yeah, Evil Finds Its Way Home. That's the tagline of this one. Evil Finds Its Way Home. I think I missed the tagline on H2O. I'm not going to go back, but Evil Finds Its Way Home. So, what does the Busta Rhymes movie rank on us? It's bad. I used to really find it amusing. there was a time where it would have been average. This was the first Halloween movie I got to see in theaters. This was the first one. It's bad. It's hard to say what's good about this movie now, other than it's just so bad, it eventually hits that level of being so bad. It's funny, but comparative, like, there's a huge gap between Halloween, the original John Carpenter film, and Halloween Resurrection. It is a huge gap in quality and storytelling, because literally the story is not needing to be told. I'll give you, Halloween 2 kind of has it's a continuation, so it's a continuation of that original story. That's fine. Season of the Witch is its own story, but at least it's a story. 4 and 5 do tell a story. They tell a story that is a continuation of the story. Does it need to be told? Maybe, maybe not, but it continues it. Micheal Meyers joins in with that story. H2O continues the story as well, but it's still telling a story. There's still a story being told. It's Michael going after his family, because again, family. H2O has no reason for its story. After 10 minutes, Laurie Strode is dead, and there's no reason for this story. We don't need to show that Micheal Meyers is basically now just Jason frickin' Voorhees. You know, originally he had at least something different than Jason. He was trying to kill his family members. For whatever reason, you know, cult, whatever, he was doing it. He had a reason, and you took away that reason, and now all he's doing is just slaughtering people. Because they're there. Alright, so that brings us to the remake by Rob Zombie, Halloween. The second movie with the name, and it is Evil Has a Destiny. The thing most people don't like about this movie, that I actually do like, is it actually spends like the first 30 to 40 minutes giving Michael backstory. When remaking a movie, you gotta look for what the original didn't do, that you can do that adds something. And I think giving Michael a backstory more than just watching him murder his sister, that helps, and I like it for it. Overall, I like this one. It's a very similar plot to the original, just with more gore. It's less about scaring you through suspense and more about scaring you with gore. But overall, it's basically the same plot, other than the opening, where it's Michael as a child being picked on, being bullied, starting to experiment with dead things and murdering animals, kind of like a psychopath does. Until, of course, that Halloween night where he murders his sister, her boyfriend, and her mom's boyfriend. He then gets sent to Smith's Grove. His mom commits suicide, leaving his baby sister left alive, and they actually show a connection. So, where the sister angle wasn't brought in until Halloween 2, so Halloween 1 doesn't need to show it, this one knew the family angle, because family, and decided to go for it right from the beginning. And it kind of shows that strong bond, which is why Michael goes back to Haddonfield, looks for his sister, and the events of this movie happens, and oddly also features in one of the supporting roles, who's also in the second one, Halloween 2, Danielle Harris, who played Jamie Lloyd in Halloween 4 and 5. So yeah, it's an interesting tidbit. They brought her back to play a different character. So where does the Rob Zombie Halloween movie fall? I like it. It's an average movie. It's right there. It's nice in average land. So we've got 2 movies left to talk about. And we're average, no matter how they fall. Both of them will tip it more towards average bad if they fall in the bad category, and they will fall in the good category. It'll definitely tip it more average good, but it's average right now. It's a pretty strong average. So that brings us to Halloween 2. It starts off, Laurie Strode is in the hospital. It has a very similar opening to Halloween 2, the original movie, and then you find out that's a dream sequence, and it picks up a year later. Michael has survived the ending of the last movie where Laurie shoots him point blank in the face. I didn't mention that. Laurie shot him point blank in the face. That's how the last movie ended. He survived being shot point blank in the face. So, it is a year later. Michael is on Halloween. He goes out trying to find his sister again and murdering people along the way. Sam Loomis is back, played by Malcolm McDowell, who played him in the last movie. He's good, but he's pointless. Really, he has no reason to be in this movie. They did not. Other than people wanted Sam Loomis back because he's supposed to be in these movies, there was no reason for him to be in this thing. They could have made this entire movie without him, and no one would have cared. It wouldn't have changed one thing about this movie. The last time I tried watching this movie, I fell asleep. So, where does it fall on my spectrum? Skip the spectrum, it's bad. to get right through the spectrum, it's a bad movie. Halloween 2, it's bad. Rob Zombie's sequel is not as good as the first one. Everything that's good about the first one, the depth of character it gives, the retelling of the story, updating it, but still holding it very true to the story, isn't there. It's a bad movie. I do want to point out that another weird horror connection these movies have is Halloween and Halloween 2 features Brad Dourif as one of the actors. Brad Dourif is best known for voicing Chucky, the maniacal doll, who we'll get to later this month. So that's kind of cool, the Child's Play franchise. So he's actually also in the Halloween franchise. So we're not through 3 timelines. Let's get to the 4th with Halloween. They could not think of a better title than just giving it the title of the original. This is a direct sequel to the original, ignoring every other movie released. So, Laurie Strode is still alive, and not Jason's sister. So this is the only one that family isn't a factor. So, how does she end up being in the grip of Michael Myers again? The plot demands it. Which is the one thing. Whereas the other ones, they made her his sister, which now gives Michael a reason to go after her. This one, she's no longer the sister, so it's just literally happenstance. Michael goes on a second killing spree, and there's Laurie Strode again. What? Happenstance. Anyways, Michael was caught at the end of Halloween, reinstitutionalized at Smith's Grove under a new doctor after Sam Loomis died, because Donald Pleasance is very dead by this point. Can't bring him back. And he's being transferred to a new institution on Halloween, because this makes any sense. The last time we tried to transfer him on Halloween, he escaped and murdered people. So what are we going to do? We're going to do it again. Because why not? So, they load Michael up onto a bus, the bus crashes, Michael kills people, and escapes to create a new killer's rampage. He runs into Laurie Strode's granddaughter, who he begins stalking. Not because he knows that it's Laurie Strode's granddaughter, just because happenstance. Because we love happenstance. In the end, Michael ends up at Laurie Strode's house, where she's been preparing for the return of Michael Myers, where she's been returning because she was so traumatized from that night 30 years ago when Michael Myers came and stalked her and attacked her, which makes sense, anyone would be. That she is now prepared for this night. She ends up trapping Michael in a panic room in the basement that is lit on fire. Her daughter, and her granddaughter escape. And that's how the movie ends. And there is another one coming out either later this year or next year with the COVID, I'm not sure which, called Halloween Kills. So I'm not sure how Michael Myers survives burning alive in a room without doors or windows in a basement. Don't know how, but they'll explain it. Because apparently, Michael Myers doesn't burn. That's what I'm getting here. He survived the explosion in Halloween 2, different timeline, we're still lighting him on fire. So apparently he doesn't burn. He's not flammable. Michael Myers is inflammable. We need to study this. I want to be... Wouldn't we all love to be inflammable? Not be lit on fire. That would be a great thing. We need to study this. Jason Voorhees needs to be studied about why he survives and lives and regrows things even though he's dead. And Michael Myers needs to be studied about why fire doesn't affect him. We could become superhumans off of these two. Alright, so, get a little punchy here. Let's get to final rankings. So, first Spectrum, it's a good movie. Halloween, it's a good movie. As much as I kind of give it crap for the happenstance, it tells a good story. It continues the story. Although it is happenstance that brings Jamie and Michael back together, it is good. It's enjoyable. It's a good movie. So, overall, we've got 6 in the average column, 3 in the good column, 2 in the bad column. So it's average, but it's on the good side of average. If this was a grading scale, you've got your A's here, and your D's and F's over here, and this would be your B and your C range. Or even if we just wanted to say this is A, and this is F, and we have B, C, and D, this wouldn't be a B. It'd be a B. I feel like it'd be more like a C. But there's a lot of over here, it's kind of pulling a B minus, C plus, somewhere in there if I gave it a grade. I'm going to stop rambling. Let's do final rankings. So the worst movie in this series, on this perfectly white screen, because of the screen with all the movie posters on it, and then I throw more movie points. That's going to get confusing. So, the worst movie of this series, and the one you should never watch, because it's bad, is Halloween 2. The Rob Zombie Halloween 2. It's a bad movie. It's not worth watching. Don't watch it. It's a waste of time, unless you want to take a nap. The step better is Halloween Resurrection. Again, it has entertaining value to it. It's not a good movie. It's almost so bad it's good, but it doesn't quite hit that marker yet. So, Halloween Resurrection. Right before that, we have Halloween, The Curse of Micheal Meyers. Because this one barely made average. This one barely made that cut of average. This is a C minus. They were 1% away, a point of a percent away from being a D here. Is what that movie is. It's like, you're almost below average, but you're not quite there yet. One step above that is Halloween, The Revenge of Micheal Meyers. Halloween 5, Revenge of Micheal Myers. Not a bad film, pretty enjoyable film. We have Halloween 3, The Season of the Witch. Coming in one step in front of Halloween 5. It's not a bad movie. Again, it has nothing to do with Micheal Myers, but that's not always a bad thing. It's still pretty entertaining. One step above that, we have Halloween 4, The Return of Micheal Myers. Again, I really like this movie. I think it's super enjoyable. It's not great, but it's enjoyable. And again, if you really want to see something funny, either Halloween 4 or Halloween 5, Micheal Myers has no neck. It's hilarious. It drives me nuts every time I watch these movies. Can't remember which exactly, because I generally watch them back to back. But one of them, Michael has a neck, the next one he doesn't, or Michael has no neck, and then he gains a neck. I really can't remember which order it goes in. Then we have Halloween H2O as our next one. Again, it's a fun movie. It was very well done. I think the concept was good, the story was good, and it covered what it needed to. We then have the Rob Zombie Halloween. I liked it. Again, I liked the fact it gave depth to the character. It told a good story. Even though it was retelling a story, it did it in a good way with the unique added depth. So it's definitely worth checking out. Then we have Halloween 2, more of the night he comes home. This is a super enjoyable movie. It was very well done. Again, it continues the story of the first one immediately, and it does it in a great fashion. Our runner-up is Halloween, the 2018 version. And they did very well. That movie was very well done. I was surprised how well they told that story. As much, again, as my actual statements on it made it sound like I didn't like it, it was a very enjoyable film. It's definitely a good horror film. And of course, the best one of the series is the original. Nothing tops the original Halloween. None of these movies, they all try to be this movie, but none of them can. If this were like a point system, like this one would be sitting in like the 80s, maybe the 90s, and this one would be down in the 70s. Like, none of them even are in the same bracket as this movie. It is a great horror film. If you've never seen it, and you're not squirmish when it comes to actual scares, it is a great film. So, that's my final rankings for the Halloween franchise. Next time, we'll be looking at another classic horror movie franchise, which I can't remember off the top of my head, so hit subscribe if you want to see that franchise. Hit like if you like this video. Hit me up with a comment if you think I'm absolutely wrong on what I'm saying, or you have the information that I don't have, like which one doesn't have a neck in. If you know it, let me know. Just so I remember. I don't have to go rewatch those movies, but I might rewatch them anyways, who knows. And don't forget to check out bonus content tomorrow, and otherwise I will see you next time. Have a good one.